want to talk about not just purely supplements and, as a product, what they do, but I really want to give you a strong sense of context, because I feel like the Hormones Balance fan base is very educated, curious, really inquisitive, and wants to know the why behind things rather than just blindly be, popping a pill, right? So I got to do the disclaimer first. So the information in this presentation is not intended to treat, diagnose, or cure, prevent any disease. It's not intended as a substitute for advice from a medical care practitioner. And you should seek the advice of your healthcare professional before undertaking any dietary lifestyle changes. The material provided in this presentation is for educational purposes only. And the products here that I'm going to be talking about are not for pregnant and lactating women. Okay, so let's get this out of the way. And many of you have asked me in the past, Magdalena, we know you as the person who's always been about food. So what about this whole supplement thing? And I used to have a lot of resistance around supplements because women, when I was in private practice, women would come to my practice and say, with spreadsheets of supplements, right, that cost them $500 a month. And the truth was they were not getting better. And so what I've realized that a lot of, including naturopaths, a lot of chiropractors, were making more money out of selling supplements and also feeding the whole pill mentality, what I call it, switching from one pill, like a medication, to another pill called supplement. So I call it the pill mentality, expecting instant results. And so instead, I developed a kind of, almost resentment towards supplements because of what I was seeing. So my motto, and I hope this makes sense to you, and give me thumbs up if this makes sense to you, or post a comment, is that my motto moving forward in terms of how my practice is structured and what I would really encourage you to how to view these elements is that food is always first and always. I'm always going to be about food. Food is the foundation of what you do. And I'm going to talk about that later, if you're constantly inflamed, you're living off sugar, coffee, gluten, while you're doing these great supplements, right? Is your adrenals going to repair? Most likely not. So my motto is food is first and always, herbs often, supplements sometimes, medications only when necessary. Okay, so I hope this makes sense to you. Let me know what you think about that, because that's like my new motto. I want to get some banners done on that. So let's just, like I said, before we dive into what's in the bottles and like what's great about like some of the nutrients and herbs and adaptogens that I really like to work with, that I really see a lot of efficacy, I also want to kind of set the stage, the why, right? So the stage here, let's talk about symptoms first, in case you are not sure if you have adrenal problem or not. And the symptoms will be in what's called the stage 2 fatigue. Which is basically it starts off with that, right? Is when you're feeling like you're constantly running from task to task, you're feeling wired and tired, tired or wired, right? And tired. You struggle to calm down and slow down. You get very quick to be angry, hard time getting over adversity or disease. And so like right now, everybody's coming down with a cold. The adrenals play a role in strengthening your immune system. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Difficulty falling asleep and staying asleep. Memory lapses, especially when you get emotional or angry. Sugar and soul cravings. Muffin tops, so this is when you have like fat popping out of your pants. Bone loss, like osteopenia, full-on osteoporosis. Feeling jittery, unfocused, and moody when hungry. Digestion, acid reflux, and ulcers. Pink or purple stretch marks on your belly. Interesting, huh? Decreased fertility, hair loss, water retention, like puffy eyes, fingers, and feet, frequent colds and flus, heart palpitations. Okay, that's for stage 2. Stage 3 is slightly different. That typically precedes stage, and that is fatigue or burnout. Like you use coffee to keep you going. Salt cravings, that's a big one. Blood pressure, low blood pressure. So that will translate to feeling dizzy after getting up from a seated or lying position, feeling very negative in the way you see the life and people, crying for no reason, and getting easily emotional, loss of stamina, especially in afternoons and evenings. You can't get out of bed and you only wake up after 2 cups of coffee, decreased problem solving skills, decreased stress tolerance. You struggle to get over simple colds, flus, and infections, low and unstable sugar levels, low sex drive, mild depression. A lot of people are sick right now. You know, some people will have a cold for 2-3 days and they're typically 3 days, 4 days, and they're over it. People who have low adrenal function will typically take 2 weeks to recover, right? So that's a dead giveaway. The adrenals are at play here. So I'm not going to talk about diagnosis and stuff like that, because otherwise I can talk about this for the whole day. But just very quickly, like from a salivary in adrenal fatigue or cortisol readings, typically what it looks like on the left side, you got the stage 2. I don't know if you can see my cursor on Facebook Live, is that you basically have, some days you have high cortisol levels, and then other parts of the day, actually within the day itself, you can have high cortisol levels at some time of the day. Others could be normal, and then other times could be low or high. So like the example given here, somebody wakes up with elevated adrenals, and then it drops in the afternoon. It's like, it's still within a range, but on the lower side. Evening is definitely on the low side. This is the person who by 5-6 o'clock feels really tired. But then night, you can see it's above the average, right? So that would be somebody who then can't fall asleep because she's so stimulated. On the other hand, the stage 3 is basically a flat curve where your cortisol levels are flat. So this is the person I was talking about who needs those 2 cups of coffee to wake up in the morning. Stage 3 is typically the result of stage 2. Many of you are in stage 2. And so what I would strongly suggest is for you to really take care of it and take this presentation to heart, because you don't want to be in stage 3. Stage 3 is very miserable. It's like you're so depleted, like life just got sucked out of you, okay? So the role of adrenals is kind of interesting, because most people know it as a stress response mechanism, right? As a gland that helps you to get through stressful times. But what most people don't realize is that the adrenals also are responsible for modulating the immune system. So this presentation is not only for those of you who are having, you know, a problem with flus and colds, but also for those of you who have autoimmune diseases, like if you have Hashimoto's, if you have celiac, if you have Crohn's, if you have ulcerative colitis, whatever it might be. The health of adrenals are incredibly important, and I especially say so when it comes to the thyroid conditions. Interestingly, adrenals also regulate your blood pressure. So this is the reason why people with exhausted adrenals get up and they feel lightheaded, right? It's because adrenals also produce a hormone called aldosterone, which is responsible for modulating your blood pressure. When the adrenals are so tired, you're underproducing not just cortisol, but also aldosterone. And then the adrenals also manage the blood sugar levels. So, you know, and this is the reason why, you know, like when, for example, when your blood sugar levels drop because you're having hypoglycemia, for example, is the adrenals' responsibility to bring them back up. But that makes them really, really tired. So basically, it's that overload of stimuli, including blood sugar levels, that can exhaust them, you know, not just stress. So what else do the adrenals affect? Interestingly, also the thyroid function. Again, I'm not going to go into details, but for those of you who heard about the HPA axis, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis, the P stands for pituitary. The pituitary gland also produces a hormone called TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, that stimulates the thyroid, as the name implies, to produce the other thyroid hormones. So when your adrenals are compromised, the whole HPA axis is compromised, and that's why the thyroid suffers as well. Quality of sleep is very vastly compromised. And probably, I don't need to tell you, rejuvenation happens in sleep, detoxification happens in sleep. You feel like crap when you wake up after a lousy night's sleep, right? I don't need to tell you that. Bone health depends on the adrenals, and very interestingly, low progesterone. I've noticed there's a huge interest about progesterone in this group, so I thought I'll talk about this a little bit, because and I want to just show you this chart. It's going to be a little heavy, but just bear with me. I'm going to try to make it really simple for you. I want to explain why is it that women who are constantly stressed out are also suffering from low progesterone. And you can be doing all the progesterone creams you want, but at the end of the day, it's the adrenals that really are going to save the day. So take a look at this chart. We're just going to focus on the left side of the chart, and that is that's showing how the cholesterol is the precursor for all your steroid hormones. So the whole chart here that you see, all of those hormones are your steroid hormones. You're also known as sex hormones, right? So pregnenolone, progesterone, all the estrogens, cortisol, DHEA, right, testosterone are all sex hormones. So here's an interesting thing. Just take a look at the left side here. There is a very potent hormone, a precursor, meaning like a mother hormone, right, of which progesterone is produced. But interestingly, cortisol is also produced, or pregnenolone is a precursor for cortisol. So the interesting thing that happens is there is a pathway in the body that decides how do you split how much of the pregnenolone will go towards progesterone and how much will go towards cortisol. There's literally a pathway in the body that create that split. And when a person is constantly stressed out, it's because it is your survival hormone, if you will. Cortisol is your survival hormone. You cannot live without it, right? So the body will steal will steal progesterone and basically will steal the pregnenolone and put it all towards cortisol so that you can basically live your stressful life. Now, the result of this is that when you're stealing whatever is available from the pregnenolone, this is what results in low progesterone. I think it's a really powerful thing. If you think about it, of an example here, women who are constantly stressed out, who are trying to get pregnant, can't get pregnant, right? And then for a long time, they try all sorts of things. And then they go and adopt a child. They fall in love, with the child, things stabilize at home. The adrenals recover from the constant stress. And then 2 years later, a year later, the woman gets pregnant. I'm sure you've heard of cases like that. It's actually pretty common. And if their infertility was caused by low progesterone, then those are the cases you hear about. And so this is a really good example of how that happens. So I'm going to do a lot more talks about progesterone next year because I can see there's a lot of interest in that. But I just wanted you to know this because I think it's really powerful. So I want to deliver some truth bombs here so that, you don't live with an illusion that I'm going to pop, Magdalena's Adrenal TLC and I'm going to be spanking healthy and good. My energy is going to return and all that good stuff. So I need you to know a couple of things. The supplements alone would not help adrenal fatigue. Okay, so I'll be straight up about that. As much as we've got a new supplement line, and yes, I am going to be selling it, but I also want to position it in a context for you so that it's not misleading, right? You're going to do some homework. And adrenal exhaustion and depletion is one of the more complex adrenal imbalances I find, is because, first of all, it takes time to heal. That's number one. Number two is that it is, I think that's my next point, is a multifactorial treatment plan, meaning that you've got to do quite a number of things in order to support your adrenals to bring them to recovery. Some of the most important things that are severely overlooked in adrenal deficiency repair plans is sleep and rest. Learning to rest, learning to say no to things, getting sufficient sleep, going to sleep at 10 o'clock, waking up at whatever time without an alarm clock are some of the really great practices. Reducing or completely getting off caffeine. See, caffeine is a stimulant. Your adrenals are already overstimulated, right? And so you're adding fuel to the fire by constantly drinking coffee. If you cannot get off coffee or caffeine, minimize it, but always have it after something rich, as in rich in protein, fat, or fiber, and never before breakfast. That's one of the worst things you can do to your adrenals, is to have caffeine, stimulate yourself right before breakfast. And so for those of you who are interested in food, I would recommend, so sugar balance is another really important thing in managing the adrenals. Remember, I said the adrenals are the ones rebalancing your blood sugar levels when you have those dips. One of the great ways of really stabilizing your blood sugar levels throughout the day is to do what I call PFF breakfast, protein, fat, and fiber rich breakfast. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to my website, hormonesbalance.com. Just search for PFF breakfast or look at the breakfast, and most of them are compliant with the PFF principle. Addressing food sensitivities and gut distress is huge. Every time you're putting something in your body is struggling to digest, and when you're having gut issues, that's also considered stress. You might be maybe emotionally not stressed, but your body is physically stressed out, and that contributes towards adrenal fatigue. So addressing that is really important. Reframing stress is another interesting one. I'm not going to have time to do this, but if you don't know the idea of reframing, just Google it. It's basically looking at the same problem from a different light, right? It's like, instead of saying, for example, my boss is a real, pain in the butt, right, person, and I can't work with him. Another way of looking at this and saying, what am I learning from this experience? It's not a good experience, but I'm learning from this. What am I learning from this experience? And then creating a plan to move forward to another job, right? That's just an example of a reframe. Not over-exercising. That's another very common one. I remember working with a lot of women who were athletes or exercising 5 times a week because they wanted to lose weight, and over-exercising, and that was actually getting the adrenals to a worse state. One of the things you know when you're over-exercising is that when you're feeling tired after exercise, instead of feeling rejuvenated and feeling fresh and like energized after exercise, you're feeling like you either need a cup of coffee or you want to go and sleep. That's a dead giveaway that you're over-exercising and your adrenals are not coping with that. And then addressing past trauma. So if you have things like PTSD, if you had stuff from the past that's lingering on, that's been unresolved, whether it's abuse or living with abusive family, whatever happened, these things need to be resolved to really help your adrenals. Okay, so as you can see, it's not as straightforward. Oh, is ashwagandha going to help me? Is rhodiola going to be the answer? I'm doing vitamin C. Sure, I'm going to talk about all of those because they are all critical, but it's really all of this here on this slide. That's your plan. Now, the supplement, as the word implies, is to, the word supplement is to supplement something, right? It's not to replace, it's to supplement. So think of supplements that way. So when you cover all these other issues, or while working on those other issues I talked about, and you want to, look at supporting your adrenals through a supplement plan, then the strategy that I have here for you, which I really like, is to look at a couple of things when you want to support your adrenals. On one hand, the number one is bringing in adaptogens that gently calm and nourish the adrenals, right? So they boost the adrenals very slightly. They don't stimulate them, they just give them the nutrients needed to function well. On the other hand, you want to bring the nervines to calm down the nervous system so that it stops overstimulating the adrenals, right? And then number three, the foundation is to have your immune supports for boosting and nourishing, right? So since, so you're supporting the adrenals so they are not solely responsible for managing the immune system. What do you guys think about that plan? Adaptogens boost or nurture and nourish, right? Nervines bring the nervous system down, immune system support. Post on your comments, let me know what you think. So let's talk about adaptogens, about some of the, some of the known ones, and what is the reason why we have them in the formulation for this product here, the Adrenal TLC. It has some of the really wonderful adaptogens, and I want to tell you about them. So adaptogens are basically herbs. They're called adaptogens because of their amazing ability to help the body respond to stress. They can help dampen the stress response in overactive adrenals and increase the response in underactive adrenals. So they're they really tap into intelligence of the body to kind of know whether do you need a slight boost or do you need to calm them down. I've got this adaptogen continuum. This is from my herbal program. And I categorized, after having done a lot of research on herbs, I've categorized them to the extreme left, which is stimulating and revitalizing, balancing and nurturing, and then calming, sedating to sleep, and sedating to sleep. Sedating to relax and sedating to sleep. So today we're gonna focus on the left side of this continuum. And some of the stimulating and revitalizing adaptogens will be things like rhodiola, Panax. Actually, the word American ginseng is being phased out as being incorrect because it's actually not a ginseng. So it's more the name that's used more often now is Panax. Urethra, which is one of my absolute favorites. Cordyceps, which are mushrooms. Maca, schizandra, licorice. Some of those that really like, they're real powerhouses. Other adaptogens are for balancing and nurturing will be ashwagandha, tulsi, holy basil. I actually start the day always drinking holy basil, one of my absolute favorite teas. Gotu kola, shatavari, which is more of a libido enhancer, reishi mushrooms, chaga mushrooms. So the interesting thing about adaptogens, you see, is that you might respond to one of them, but not another. Like, for example, ashwagandha puts me to sleep, right? I can't have it in the morning. Like, for example, rhodiola doesn't do anything for me. But urethra, for instance, is my absolute go-to, and it really does the work for me. So I've experimented with all of them over the years, so I have a pretty clear picture of what, how my body responds. But that's one of the things I want to say to you is that just because you've tried one thing and it hasn't worked, that doesn't mean it doesn't work at all. It just may not be working for you, or it might be giving you a reverse effect. So I want to tell you first about urethra because it is actually one of my absolute favorite adaptogens. And you see the little thing at the bottom here, the visual. That's a urethra plant. I like it so much. That's even part of my part of the presentation. So interestingly, is a resilient Siberian adaptogen. Also, it's originally been like found in came from Siberia, but also like the Scandinavian parts, and also in China has been used for a long time. You will see there is a theme here with Siberian kind of herbs, is because a lot of herbalists believe that the qualities and the personality of the plant that develops because of its environment often the time gets passed on to us. And so the resilience, for example, to cold, to terrible weather, and developing the strength of the plant and its resilience, it's something that it can pass on to us, which I think is just a beautiful concept, and you could really feel it. It's great to enhance physical and mental performance. It's fantastic at boosting immune system. There are studies showing how people with EBV or mono have really great results of kicking the virus with urethra. Cautions: it can disrupt sleep. Best taken in the mornings, and should be taken for those with high blood pressure. Okay. Another one, which is I think more of you know about this plant because I've been talking a lot about it, including the ashwagandha latte in our herbal program, is the herb ashwagandha, which is one of the classical adaptogens in the Ayurvedic medicine. Ashwagandha is considered both a food and a tonic medicine for a number of things, and that it would be improving energy, memory, and learning, promoting libido in some people, calming and anti-inflammatory effect. It can be used to improve sleep, reduce anxiety, reduce inflammation, oxidative stress, so damage which results from inflammation. The caution here on ashwagandha will be, it is a nightshade family. So if you know that you have a sensitivity to nightshades, will be things like, you already know about potatoes, tomatoes, eggplants, peppers are making you ill, then you should be avoiding ashwagandha altogether. Then perhaps the adrenal TLC formulation might not be the right thing for you. But there's other things you can do, and so you can use the other herbs that I'm just mentioning, and get those as perhaps as single herbs. And I personally like them in tincture form. So another herb that is really potent is rhodiola. This is how it looks: this beautiful green, with yellow flowers on it. Rhodiola is another. You can see there's a theme here. Another resilient Siberian herb. Helps promote and calm emotional state, supports strong mental performance, optimal immune function, and hormonal balance, is a key adaptogen in reducing anxiety. It improves mental and physical stamina, improves sleep, and reduces stress, burnout, and irritability. Is best taken as a tincture or a supplement. So another one that you might have come across in the past is American ginseng. Also, of the correct name today is really Panax. I should change this. Panax has been revered by traditional Chinese medicine for over 2,000 years. I've lived in China for 4 years, and it's like one of those things that you just see it everywhere. Whether they'll put it in the bone broth in broths, and you just see that on displays in those herbal shops, in Chinese herbal shops. It's pretty fascinating. And you see that dry root everywhere. One of the beauties of Panax is that it benefits the whole body. Instead of being like very focused on specific benefit, it really is an all-around super beneficial herb. Is that's part of its beauty, that we use it here for adrenal support, but the truth of the matter, it actually supports us throughout, especially where we're weak, where there's a weak link in the body. Ideal for low adrenals, fatigue, low libido, lack of vitality, taken as a tincture or as a supplement. So let's talk about the Adrenal Repair Kit, which is these 3 products that I was telling you about that we have in stores right now. These are the 3. So every one of them, there's a reason why we put them as a kit, right? So as a bundled kit. So how do they map out in the strategy that I was showing you? Is that The adrenal TLC is very much focused on adaptogens, the nervines. We're using magnesium to calm down their immune system. And I'll tell you about magnesium in a second. And then the number 3 is the immune support for boosting and nourishing. We are using essential oils, essential omegas. So that's the EPA and DHA is right there. So let me talk about, first of all, the adrenal TLC, what's in there. So Tender Love and Care, in case you don't know what TLC is. This is the supplement fact list. Let's dive into a little bit more detail. So if you look at the left, the first thing here you will see is vitamin C. The reason why we're having vitamin C in this formulation is because it's involved in, vitamin C is found to be involved actually in direct production of supporting the adrenals in producing cortisol. It's also essential in building, as a building block in adrenal gland recovery, boost the immune system. Vitamin C is also known to be very quickly depleted when we are stressed out, right? Also, vitamin C, the adrenals actually have the highest number of receptors for vitamin C, so they are very hungry for vitamin C. Now let's look at vitamin B6, which is an interesting one. Vitamin B6 helps with energy, cortisol production. It's also a precursor for serotonin. I'm kind of focusing here on the adrenals itself, but B6 is also, I forgot to mention this here, but B6 is also one of the big vitamins that is a precursor for progesterone production, right? So, you know, we always talk about supplementing with B6 in order to rebalance our progesterone levels. And that kind of also, if you think about it, is on one hand is food for the luteum corpus, which produces progesterone. But on the other hand, if you think about it, it kind of makes sense here because when B6 supports cortisol production, then the pregnenolone steal that I was showing you earlier doesn't happen anymore, right? So that way you have sufficient pregnenolone to be channeled towards progesterone production. So it's a double benefit. Pantothenic acid basically stimulates the adrenal cells to secrete cortisol and progesterone, interestingly, as well. And then you've got a whole list of the adaptogens. So urethroid, I talked about, American ginseng, ashwagandha, rhodiola is in it. There's also a little bit of licorice in the formulation here, right? So you've got, that's why I really love this combination because it really is like the, you know, it's the core of what the adrenals need. And the interesting thing also about formulations, and I'm not a formulator by any means, but when you have skilled people who know how to formulate things, formulators always say that 1 + 1 with herbs or with supplements equals 5, right? Or equals, 3 or whatever, right? You get the idea. So sometimes it's also not just about taking, single things like taking only vitamin C and hoping to recover the adrenals, but it's really in a combination with the adaptogens and the vitamin Bs that it has the best results with the adrenals. So the second product in the kit I want to tell you about is the Magnesium Replenish, which is one of my favorite products here. I've been using this for a long time before this became my brand. And let me talk a little bit about magnesium, the role of magnesium. So first of all, I want to just say the interesting thing about magnesium is that I remember, my friends who are in private practice, like functional doctors and naturopaths, would say a person comes in with all these all these problems that their doctors have been diagnosing them, heart problems and, with heart palpitations, the mental function, issues with depression and sleeping issues, muscle convulsions. I mean, the list just goes on, right? And all they did was they gave them magnesium and everything just went away, right? And so if you're craving chocolate, by the way, that could be a sign that you actually depleted in magnesium. So don't beat yourself up for it that you're craving sugar, because actually it's not the sugar you're craving. You're probably craving magnesium. Your body knows that every time you eat chocolate, it gets a magnesium hit and it's actually good for you. So magnesium gets really quickly depleted in times of stress, but also when you consume a lot of sugar. Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride, who wrote the GAPS diet, the diet for autistic kids, she said that for 1 molecule of glucose, there's 56 molecules of magnesium that's needed in order to metabolize that sugar. I never found this anywhere else, but whatever. I mean, that's her point, but I definitely see that happening, that we get very depleted when we eat a lot of sugar. think of magnesium as the spark plug for your adrenals. That's really what it is. In terms of production of energy, it does so by attaching an important energy molecule called adenosine tryptophan, which is also known as ATP, everybody calls it. And this is how energy in the body is produced. Helps with building bones, cell membranes, and chromosomes, converts food to fuel or energy, relaxes muscles. This is a huge one, you guys. For women who are having cramps, especially during PMS, if you're cramping at night, your calves are cramping, you're having all sorts of body pains and aches, first thing you do, correct your magnesium levels and you'll be amazed. It helps to regulate body temperature, supports liver detoxification. That's a huge one. Filters out toxins like mercury, aluminum, and lead. Is one of the key nutrients for producing glutathione, which is the mother antioxidant. And so interesting also, magnesium is the counter ion for calcium and potassium in your muscle cells. This is why if levels drop too low, your nerve signals and muscle contractions may be affected, leading to muscle cramps and heart arrhythmias. I can't tell you how many people in our closed group had heart arrhythmias and heart palpitations, and it can also be the thyroid, no doubt about that. It could be other issues. Oftentimes it can also be magnesium. I forgot to mention it even here, but a lot of women who are having like periodic headaches, migraines, oftentimes they can be due to magnesium deficiency. It helps sleep. Oh wow, that's another one, right? That depletion in magnesium, big sleeping problems. So this is our magnesium product, and it's in a glycinate form, which is one of my favorite forms. It's not going to give you a diarrhea. It's got the high glycinate form, has got this highest absorbability of magnesium into the body, and so it's not the cheapest supplement of magnesium you can buy. I talked about it, just yesterday about how not to. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? I talked about how not to, don't catch yourself in getting cheap supplements just because thinking you got a deal. A lot of times cheap supplements also use cheap ingredients. At the end of the day, it's either not creating the efficacy for you or you actually outright harm. So the last product in the bundle is essential oils. And you might be wondering, why do we use this? And so, one of the studies I want to share with you is that fish oil prevents adrenal activation elicited by mental stress in healthy man. Healthy man, interesting, right? So in the conclusion, I'm just reading that stuff at the bottom, the paragraph. Supplementation with the N3 fatty acids inhibits the adrenal activation elicited by mental stress, presumably through effects exerted in the level of central nervous system. Not to mention that, essential omegas or just omegas of fish oil is so highly anti-inflammatory that it's one of the, I'm not a big supplement person. And so I take only a few supplements on a regular basis, and essential oils, essential omegas, are definitely one of them. So the kit is basically, as you can see, designed with a lot of thought behind it. And so the kit, I would encourage you to think about getting the whole kit. That's when you can get 10% off. If not, then just get individual products. And the website to go to is Hormone Balance Nutritionals. That's our new store with all the beautiful herbs and spices and not spices, but herbs and vitamins and minerals in them. So I want to just before I dive into your questions, and hopefully I can see that on Facebook here. Oh, wow, I've got 50 comments here right now. Okay. I want to do an all-round, I want to do a little bit of a roundup of what I've been saying earlier. If you're coming in late, then just when I finish this, probably about 15 minutes time or so, Facebook will publish the full video. So really, when you look at adrenal support, yes, they are the adaptogens and the vitamins and the minerals I talked about that can be hugely helpful in boosting your adrenals. But please do not forget about the nutrition and your gut health. That's going to be really important. If you are new to my community, if you don't know what I'm talking about, like in terms of nutritional changes and support, go to cookingforbalance.com, cookingforbalance.com. There's a free workshop that I run with an option of doing a full program. Learn the basics of nutrition to support your hormones, really important. restorative exercise and not over exercising. So here I'm talking about things like Pilates, yoga, going dancing, going for gentle walks, potentially doing high intensity interval exercise training, right? But it's only if you can cope with it. It's not for everyone. And not running, not biking, not pushing yourself in a gym in a spin class. That kind of stuff kills the adrenals when you are not in good shape. Resting, huge thing. Especially now we're going towards the end of the year. It's either going to be typically like workload and stuff, everything starts slowing down, but social engagements are huge. I would really encourage you to carve out a time for yourself to start resting. Learn to rest, learn to say no to things. Don't go to things you don't have to go to, right? And just spend the time on yourself. Don't feel like you're lazy when you sleep. We sleep, sure, going to sleep at 10 o'clock and waking up with that alarm is the best practice. However, if you feel like you need a nap in the afternoon, go for it. It's your body's way of saying, I need rest. You got to learn to respect that. I want to just tell you, when I left my job in advertising, 9 years ago, I took 5 months off before I took on the next job. And, I was so exhausted. I mean, like deep inside, I just felt like my entire energy just left me. I was so depleted. And so I took the 5 months off and I went to all these really beautiful places. And I remember one of the things I did was, because I'm also a very avid learner, right? Like I always like to learn. And so one of the things I did was I went to London to enter to do like a month and a half, the London School of Journalism. It was like a summer program because I always like to write, and I thought maybe the journalism thing will be my next career. I don't know. And so I ended up going to school, and the classes would finish at 4. And then, gosh, I'm in London. I've got all these friends in London. I'm staying in this beautiful apartment all by myself. And all I wanted to do is just sleep. And I really thought, I was like, wow, maybe I have cancer, or maybe I'm really sick. Like, what's going on here? And the interesting thing was that, now from a perspective of time, I know that my body was just so tired that I needed that sleep in order to recover. And I'm glad that I listened to my body and I did it. But it was, that was this big tussle going on. I should be going out for drinks with my friends in this London after all. It's just all these things to do. And a lot of engagements I said no to, and I just went to sleep. Literally, like get home from the class and head to bed right away. A lot of self-love and self-acceptance. Start noticing your thoughts about conversations with yourself, beating yourself up, being unforgiving, being angry with ourselves, feeling shame, feeling anger towards oneself, another person, or yourself. It's another cause for adrenal exhaustion. I kid you not. Like, these self-conversations can be so depleting. Stress management, I talked about, especially reframing. And I was just gonna leave you for that. I thought it's a good one, especially now that we're going into the weekend. Orgasm and oxytocin release. Actually, oxytocin is your love hormone, right? That's released in, like a bond between mom and a baby. There's a huge oxytocin release. Orgasm is also a huge moment of oxytocin release, and so which helps the adrenals tremendously. We're going to the weekend. Do what you need to do to comply with this advice here. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Let me go over to Facebook Live and see what's going on here. Let me know what you guys think. Oh my gosh, so many comments. Okay, I'm just gonna pick up a few here, good ones. Amy is asking, how many mgs of magnesium do you recommend? That's a really great question. So let's take a look at the bottle. The bottle here is a serving, so 2 capsules would be 300 milligrams. You start off with that, and then what you wanna do is you wanna start going up and see whether you have any symptom release. A lot of times, I like to do it until you get your bowels are too loose. This is when you back off. Believe it or not, some women are so depleted that you might need as much as 1,200 milligrams of magnesium. I've worked even with women who need 1,600 milligrams, and this is what they need. And then you taper off as you replenish. Hey, you guys, that's part of the reason why I've decided to do supplements, is because some things are just really hard to replenish through nutrition. I don't know how many bowls of cashews you need to eat in order to be high in magnesium. How much chocolate and cacao do you need to eat to replenish your magnesium levels? Really hard to do that. So this is the reason why this is the time when, after really good nutrition, supplements have their role in that. Somebody's asking about citrate. So Cedar Mitchell is asking magnesium biglycinate better than magnesium citrate, she's asking. So that's my favorite. The reason why I'm cautious with citrate is not bad. It's actually the bioavailability of citrate is pretty high. The problem that I found with magnesium citrate is that a lot of people get loose spells before they get replenished. And so, if you're having like problems with constipation, that's another thing I forgot to mention on magnesium, is that it really helps with bowel movement because it relaxes the muscles. And bowel movement is so important for hormonal balance because you need to poop out the metabolized hormones. If you don't poop them out, they can't get back into your body, creating a lot of toxicity. Shauna is asking, is there an alternative to the first step if you're sensitive to nightshades? Yes, so Shauna, what I would say is, do things like do not get the adrenal TLC because it does contain ashwagandha. It's not, let me take a look at how much, but if you're very sensitive, 100 milligrams. So, if you're sensitive, then I would say no. Definitely magnesium, definitely the fish oils, right? The other thing you could do, and by the way, we also sell them as separate products on the hormonbalancenutritionals.com website. Shauna, what I would recommend is try one adaptogen after another as singles and see how that works for you. Helena is asking, do you prescribe oxytocin for clients? Yeah, in form of orgasms and loving yourself and petting a pet or having a baby. Yes, in that form I do. What supplements do you take on a daily basis? Anel is saying. So it depends what's going on in my life. Like right now, because it's been pretty stressful time with wrapping up a lot of projects at the same time to be able to go on a holiday, I have been taking the Adrenal TLC for some support, and I'm going to continue taking it for another 2-3 weeks to recover. By the way, just so that you know, adrenals can take as long as 6 months to a year to fully recover, so that you know. Okay, so don't expect like, oh, I've been taking it for 2 weeks and I feel nothing. And it's not, again, it's not just the supplements, it's the whole holistic approach to things. What else do I take? I take the fish oils, I take the essential omegas. I do take magnesium on a pretty regular basis. I do take vitamin D on a regular basis because, I'm living in Colorado, so we don't get that much sun all the time. Let's see, what else do I take? Yeah, those are the basic ones that I will do. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Julie's saying holy basil is a great adaptogen, I found. Yes, it is. And so rhodiola, I've heard, contributes to estrogen dominance. Julie, if I was to collect the number of statements that are out there on the internet, it's pretty much we won't be able to do or eat anything, or I don't agree with that. Rhodiola contributes to estrogen dominance. Estrogen dominance is caused by so many other factors. And what I see more women having problems with estrogen dominance is that when you are using a lot of plastics, microwaving things in plastics, when your liver is not functioning well, when you have gut issues, and so I don't want to, I can say so much about estrogen dominance. Rhodiola is not gonna cause that, on the contrary. So let's see what else. Let's see. Alena is asking, how will I know that my body is having benefits taking supplements? So far, taking supplements, nothing worked for me. So Elena, this is a really good question. My answer to this is that this is when I see things not working, when we are doing other things to ourselves that compromise the healing. And a lot of times that will be, my question for you would be, have you changed your diet? Have you gotten off gluten, minimized sugar? Have you gotten off dairy? I've done the full elimination diet, and I talk about it in a cookingforbalance.com program and the free workshop even. So just take that and take a look, because on one hand, you putting these really wonderful nutrients into your body. On the other hand, you're still adding fuel to the fire, right? So the fire is here, you're helping this to kind of subside it, but then you're still adding the fuel to the fire, like gluten, like sugar. Are you sleeping well? You know, is there a lot of stress in your life, right? How toxic are you? Do you smoke? You know, there's all these other factors that are involved. And I found that those are the people when the supplements are not working, is because we need other support coming from elsewhere. I hope that makes sense. Patricia is saying, can I take supplement if I'm taking medication? So Patricia, this is I can't answer that question. And so you need to talk to your doctor who is managing it. It all depends on what kind of supplement. Fish oils can interfere with some medications. I can't answer that, sorry. Best vitamin C for sensitive stomach, Lori is asking. It's not, I found it's not so much the form, it's the amount that you're using. Let's see, in the TLC here, we are using 100 milligrams for a serving, which is not a high dose, but it's still very helpful. So try that. Would this treatment provide help for fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome? Patsy is asking. Patsy, so yeah, so fibromyalgia, both, you know, and CFS, gosh, I mean, those are serious conditions. Everything that you know, I'm talking about here is hugely beneficial for these conditions. So yes, absolutely. Anti-inflammatory, supporting the adrenals, you just can't go wrong with that. One thing, Patsy, that would add to, especially for people with chronic fatigue, is magnesium in a malate form, M-A-L-A-T-E, in a malate form, if you want to add that. I don't sell that, but just go online and get some really good brands in a malate form. Is it safe to buy it from a Chinese market? Claudine is asking. I'm assuming you're talking about like ashwagandha. No, I wouldn't do that because you don't know whether it's organic, and that's just not worth experimenting with. Kate is asking, do you recommend continuing taking these after healing or just when you're recovering? It's a good question. So no, I only recommend it when you need the support. And so I will typically, when I see somebody doing this for 6 months to a year, but not more than that. After that, you know, the whole idea, the purpose is to recover your adrenals. You don't have to depend on that. Although, like I said, I do take magnesium and oils, fish oils on a regular basis myself, just because I feel like it benefits me a lot. Thank you, guys. There's a lot of really great feedback. Okay, let's see. Maktep is saying, as an integrative clinical pharmacist, I agree with your motto. Everybody wanted medication, and now everybody asks me about supplements. Yeah, that's a thank you. Okay, so let me go back to the beginning, and I'm looking at myself, you guys, and I look tired. You know, so I tell you, when I come back from my vacation, I'm going to be looking very different. I can tell you that. Okay, so I hope this is helpful. We've been going on for almost an hour, so I think I've got to start wrapping up. I'm soon going to the airport to pick up my friend. We're then heading out in a couple of days to a beautiful hot spring up in Colorado. Hey, you guys, I hope this was helpful for you. And if you consider supporting us through, you know, if this all makes sense to you and adrenals are a problem, especially now in times of cold, a lot of times immune system is get compromised. The adrenals can play a role in this. Think about supporting us. All the supplements I talked about today are on Hormone Balance Nutritionals. Okay, you guys, so I want to wish you a really, really good rest of the year. Learn to say no. It's okay to say no to sometimes to things. Get as much rest as possible because it's going to be busy again from January onwards. I hope you're having some nice vacations, some good me time, recovery time, and I will see all of you next year in January. Bye for now.